Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Xi Iyer. I'm going to list a few events that have happened in the last few years and try and elicit our guest of the evening, Sumit Peer I, about what he thinks India is up to. China threatens India, saying that we control your power grid, we can bring it down anytime. India does nothing for 13 hours just to prove their point. Mumbai South, portions of Mumbai South go without power for 13 hours. And this happened in 2020. Then they've made these kinds of threats, a lot of them. In fact, in my opinion, the CDS Bipin Rawat's killing on a plane is not an accident. It was actually induced, in my opinion, of course. And whatever research that has been done, nobody is coming and saying why it happened, because a brand new Russian helicopter. Anyway, so that is another one. And then even though there is encroachment, the Prime Minister stays in the parliament, koi aaya nahi, koi gaya nahi. And there are 100 people who are lining up and saying, in theory, he is right. And others are saying, no, he is not right. India has ceded 4,000 square kilometers of territory. I'm just telling you all the things that have been happening in the last few years. Now, here is a new twist. They are starting to rename villages in Arunachal Pradesh and giving them Tibetan and Chinese names. They want to call Arunachal Pradesh southern part of Tibet. And what is India going to do? India, well, today they have announced that the defense minister is going to be visiting that area and they are going to be doing a lot of infrastructural projects. Is this the right way to respond back? India has a big trump card, which in my opinion, they are not playing. Now, I'll come to that in just one moment. Let's welcome our guest, Sumit Peer I. Sumit ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar, sir. Welcome to all and sadhuvat all. Thank you very much for the opportunity, sir.
Sumit ji, you've heard all my different things. Okay, let's start with the first one. They said that they are going to take India's power grid down, and they proved it. I did some research and I found out that all the equipment for India's power grid installation controls were all supplied by Chinese, and that it could be controlled from Hong Kong. And that's probably what happened, and they could easily do it. Now, what are the different state electricity boards doing to prevent this kind of stuff? Any idea on that, Sumit ji?
Sir, sabse pehle namaskar to you. So, in fact, if you look at our infrastructure, before 2014, this all infrastructure has come before 2014. And a lot of this infrastructure has come in the Congress regime. And Congress regime was very famous for cut and commission. So it right. Didn't really matter who gave them cut and commission. They will just get anything and get anything up and running. Not even that, sir. Let's not forget the infamous MOU, which Mr. Rahul Gandhi signed with Xi Jinping, which nobody knows what is inside that MOU. But as per some sources which are known to me, they say Mr. Ajit Doval might have some extracts by now. And even that might be used at the right point of time, to say what was the biggest sinister design. Because as far as I know from limited information I have, that was to give free market access to China, its goods, and to have FTA with China, so that in the long run, you would see your price. So in the short run, you will see your prices falling, your purchasing power increasing. But in the long run, Indian industry will be shattered. We would be a Pakistan in making, how China is controlling Pakistan. That was the bigger plan with China. So after 2014, when Prime Minister Modi took over, there were a lot of challenges. I mean, we discussed last time what was the challenge with the banks, what was the NPAs. And Prime Minister had an option of taking out a white paper, which he chose not to take. Likewise, there is not only power grids. I'll take you very recently, sir, around 3-4 months back. Our AIM servers, the data was hacked.
Yes.
It was said that it is Chinese hackers. Now, why were they hacking the data? I was the first one to point out that on the national media also, they're the Chinese who would have hacked this data, because they want to know how did India manage the COVID? What was the response? What kind of test did we do? What is the medication? What is the profile of the patients? Which age group? Because if you get the data, otherwise you will hack a bank, you will hack a mint, you will hack a public record, you will hack these things which have economic value. You might hack a reactor, you might hack a power grid, which are absolutely right. But why AIMS? Because I suspected they might be making one more variant, which will be very specifically designed possibly to attack the Indian crowd or the Indian audience, so that they, by looking at those millions of points of data, you can make what kind of a variant to engineer. So this Chinese threat is always there. In fact, if I take you to the MOD, I think for last 20 years now, we are not using even one connector which is made in China. But there are sectors which are classified as non-strategic sectors, unfortunately, which were not. If you look at the power sector, if you look at some of the equipment which is used here and there, like in MOD, we don't use anything made in China, but there are sectors which you rightly pointed out where the Chinese equipment is. There is a Chinese threat which is prevalent, but I think with time they are being replaced. We're building our firewalls, we're building our encryptions. And in fact, if you look at the MOD, the most of the firewalls which are there and the encryption is built by Bharat Electronics Limited, Bell. And even we were in talks with the US to get FIPS 142 and other encryptions in place. But so there is a proprietary encryption, and we are also talking of a unified health portal wherein they will be behind the military grade firewalls, which we are building now, which we are developing now. But there's a lot of backlog equipment which is there. There's a lot of there are a lot of vulnerabilities which are still there, which are being plugged. But it is a long way to go, sir, because whatever has been done in 65 years cannot be undone in 7 or 9 years. But we are on the right path. We are doing the right thing. And this is what is happening. The vulnerability is there. The threat is there. But after Prime Minister Modi, it is mitigated. There was a time, give you an example. There was a time when a person like 𝙒𝙖𝙩𝙦𝙤 or ISI could have a bomb blast. They could pick up and choose a street and have a bomb blast. In last 9 years, that has gone. The Chinese, it is not Chinese are not trying to hack. Chinese are trying to hack every day. In fact, we have thousands of attacks, cyber attacks, which are happening every day, and 90% of them are from China or from Chinese sponsored. Even they come from Ukraine, they come from North Korea, they're coming from Hong Kong, they're coming from some other China-friendly countries. But it is mostly the Chinese which are trying to hack. And because it's the time of network-centric warfare, where crippling your networks is also a tool, is also a weapon which they are using. So network-centric warfare is what we all know. So in this network-centric warfare, hacking your reactors, hacking your power grids, hacking your medical infra, hacking your banks. And let me tell you one more interesting incident. There was a company in India, and there is a company in India, which was primarily funded by China to have control of the India's payment markets. That was primarily funded to have control of the India's payment markets. If we do not have BHIM and UPI, today all our payments would be literally controlled by Chinese. That was the game plan. They funded that company $1 billion. The idea was not the business, the idea was not the money. How to control the Indian markets. Even at the time of COVID, sir, you would have seen how they were trying to do hostile takeovers. For example, HDFC Bank. Then we got a registration more than 1% stake. You have to take approval from China. Then we got this, what do we call as listing of the beneficiary ownership, where we could decode those names. So there's a lot we have done. There's a lot we have to do. There are a lot of things which are covered, and there's a lot which still needs to be covered. It's work in progress.
Now, let's go to specifics. See, just because some country says that these are all, our territory and we have given them Chinese/Tibetan names, doesn't mean much. In fact, US has come back in support of India and said that US recognizes the McMahon line and that they don't endorse what China has tried to do. Essentially, it was a rap on the knuckles for China by the US in support of India. I still see people saying that we can't trust US. Look, US is your friend for now. At least understand that for now. Anyway, look, the tools that India has, that in my opinion that India is not playing back, are things like, for example, India said that it will not say a word against Taiwan. It can say something there. It can say India is thinking about recognizing Taiwan. That would really, set them up. Really, they'll start jumping up and down. Or the one that gives the most response from them is when India says anything about Tibet or Dalai Lama. The moment India says anything on that they just go into a rage. That's what India needs to do. Every time these guys rename, you can go back and find a Sanskrit name for a Tibet region and say this is, for example, Aksai Chin is Ghosthana. In our olden days, it was called Ghosthana. Why don't India say that we are going to refer to this whole area, make a press conference, give the map, this is all ours and it is called Ghosthana. This is yours. It's not even like somebody else's. Why doesn't India do things like that?
Sir, there are a couple of things. First of all, if you look into it, 5-6 dimensions of it, Sri sir. The first dimension is the economic dimension. Still, the trade between India and China is $125 billion with a $70-odd billion of trade deficit to India. Right, that is point number one. It is still going on. There are some supply chains which India is still dependent on China. That's point number two. Now, what has India done? These are the vulnerabilities. What India has done. In fact, if you look at how do I look at this renaming incident of China, is because China is rattled. China is really gone crazy because China is not able to move a brick in India. I'll tell you how. First of all, if you look at the medical APIs, there was a time we were dependent on China. Now, out of 12,000 APIs, around 5,000 are being made in India. If we make 8,000, by the end of 2023, we will not need China. If we make 8,000, we might become the number 1 or 2 drug manufacturer in the world. Supply chains is moving out of China. Point number 3. Now, if you look at the semiconductor industry, a lot has started coming into India, and we have a bigger roadmap. And by 2026, we'll be exporting $300 billion of electronics from India. 2026, 27, not a lot of years, 3-4 years down the line. We have put $13 to $16 billion in developing the infra from the semiconductor industry, and a lot of people like Mr. Agarwal and all have come in, they've shown the interest. And there are Israelis who have come in, there are some Taiwanese companies which are interested, and we are talking to. Now, if you look at the Chinese, if you look at the semiconductor industry, sir, it is a $300 billion industry for China, but the bigger implication is in the electronics. Because if semiconductor moves out of China, the Chinese electronics will not be viable. The biggest export from China is electronics. And if you look at the mobile phones, we are already the number 2nd manufacturer in the world. This year, we target to do around $10 billion mobile phone exports. You know, there was a time around 8 years back, we were importing each and every mobile phone. We are not manufacturing anything here. So that is rattling China. Moving of semiconductor industries here is rattling China because let's say it is a PC today. For example, my machine, it costs 100,000 rupees. After we have the semiconductors here and after we have these things happen, it will come to around 40,000 rupees. So we are talking of cutting our cost by 60%. So that will not only make Indians consume more, but it will make a lot of export markets more viable for us. And that is where we are hitting China. Point number 3 is, if you look at the Arunachal Pradesh, now last, I think, 12 months, the amount of fortification which has been done around this border. If you look at Swiss-made machine guns, if you look at Soren drones, Swamp drones, if you look at new airfields, if you look at Chinooks, Apaches, Rafales, if you look at a Sukhoi on a BrahMos, smaller version on a Sukhoi, if you look at Jaguars are deployed, Mirages are deployed, new radars are deployed, and in the drone warfare, we have really exceeded. So we've got the kamikaze drones, we've got the navigation drones, and Q9s are in debate. So even if you monitor the Chinese media carefully, they have categorically told that India's response on the LAC has been much better and faster. Now, the troops are equal. We are building shelters, we are building hardened shelters, supply chains are being built, ration lines are being increased, right? Ration lines to the LAC are being increased. Now, when China tried an incident in Galwan, they got rattled, sir. We lost 20 of our brothers and sisters, but according to some Chinese generals who are living in the United States of America, China lost 135 of its men. Some say 125, 135, but it is 5 times what we lost. Now they tried the second incident in Tawang. They got really beaten black and blue by 20 of our guys. Beat around 2,000 Chinese and sent them back with bruises and with blue skin. Now China is rattled with that. Now when it comes to the international forum, India is G20 president, India is SCO president, and today no major decisions in the world are done without India. Now the increasing partnership between India and China, between India and United States of America, United States of America declaring that will go all out to help India in its strategic and commercial interests. The national strategy document of United States says that China is the #1 enemy and India is the pivotal force in Indo-Pacific. That goes against China. Now, not only that. Now, if I come back to Arunachal, we have announced, sir, 50 dams. 50 dams have been announced. There was a time in the Congress regime, Jairam Ramesh, who was the environment minister, and you know about the famous Jayanti text. I'm not getting into that. Now, Jairam Ramesh used to advise Prime Minister Manmohan Singh ji, do not build any hydropower infrastructure in Northeast because that will antagonize China. We didn't have roads, sir. We didn't have roads, we didn't have hydropower, we didn't have nothing. Northeast was left. And China always had a dream of cutting the chicken's neck. If the chicken's neck was cut, then it was all up to China. I mean, it was all China's mercy. Now, what has happened? 50 dams we have authorized. Now, North Arunachal will be power surplus. The biggest dam on Brahmaputra, which is $15 to $20 billion, has been recently sanctioned, which will be one of the biggest in India so far, and which will control the flow of Brahmaputra. Now, all the capitals of Northeast will be connected by train, rail, and aeroplane. That is already a mission, and a lot of it has been done. Northeast, the organic farming has come up. Northeast has got access now to the Chittagong port, where we have an arrangement with Bangladesh. So for fisheries and organic farming and all, it will straight go from Chittagong. It doesn't have to come to Guwahati and leave. So that's number one. Now, organic farming hub is there. We are opening a new factories there. Internet 5G is going there. The Northeast getting into the mainstream, and the BJP controlling the Northeast has done the magic. And let me tell you to one more aspect of it. 8,500 militants have surrendered. I think 8,500 militants have surrendered in last year. They've laid rounds. They're coming to the mainstream. 85% of the insurgency, which was mainly sponsored by China and the leftists, is kind of gone. Development is happening there. Roads are being built. Chittagong port access is there. Now, not only that, we have started a few more power projects there, which will be making Northeast the powers not only surplus, but they will be giving the power to the whole of the India. We are developing the tourist potential around the 𝙤𝙗, right around in Arunachal and 𝙤𝙗. Now, if you look at the names, so-called names of China, first of all, some of them they named two rivers. There are no such two rivers. Some are barren forest land, some are barren forest patches. And she said there is one thing which is very ironic when Chinese have nothing to do when they are rattled. What is China looking at? China is looking at a win from India. They want a win. They want a small win. Any small win vis-a-vis India where they could show this. Now, incidentally, Congress and some of its leaders have been claiming that China has taken 20,000 acres of our land. And I have been on various TV debates with them. I asked them, okay, if 20,000 acres of land is taken, can you give the latitude and longitude which latitude and longitude has China taken? No. I said, if you don't know, go and ask your party leader, Mr. Rahul Gandhi. If he doesn't know, tomorrow come and give a press conference and name this area, this latitude, this longitude is occupied by China. Unless and until you are casting aspersions. Then, remember, Sri sir, in the peak of COVID, there was a lot of pressure built on the Modi government. Modi ji, use Chinese vaccine, which is more dangerous than the coronavirus itself. There was a lot of pressure built, use Pfizer and Moderna, right? So, and there were allegations, Modi ji, you are trying to kill our children and our adults because China is ready to give the vaccine. We have $550 billion of foreign exchange reserve. Why is Modi saving foreign exchange from whom? To buy planes for himself. They were really hitting under the belt. So with this, India really building up infrastructure, getting insurgency under control, developing tourism. And let me tell you, sir, in Arunachal, we have marble, we have what is called dolomite, we have two more minerals, and we have iron, and we have bauxite there. The iron and bauxite has been also found there. And to best of my knowledge, this region, there are very strong indications has oil and gas and coal. So if you combine all the things together, that China is rattled, and these I have to admit it here with due respects, there was a time when there was a discrimination against Northeastern India, and they were called some funny names which I don't want to use here, which is very derogatory. Now, after the Modi ji's visits there, after Dr. Jitendra Singh was assigned the ministry there, and after getting Northeast into the mainstream, and if you see some of the DJs in the G20 singing Hindi songs came from Northeast, and BJP winning the Northeast, and none of them are Hindu-dominated states. They are all Christian and other dominated states. So BJP winning there, this all overall development of the points which are made has rattled China. When China doesn't know what to do, they have started giving these imaginary names. Even for that matter, Sri sir, even Valery Vostok, they have given a name. They have claimed that. They have given some names to Russian cities. 4.5 years back, they again tried the name trick. So what did MEA do? MEA rebutted this and just all is bunkum. I think that is what Mr. Arindam Bapchi said. Now, if we get into this, us giving some names and all, what will happen is that then this issue will get accelerated, will get escalated, and China is that as it wants. Oh, India is naming my territories. So when there is not a dispute, they want to create a dispute. Arunachal doesn't belong to them. Arunachal is an integral part of India. They know it very well. And if Arunachal was their part, hypothetically, Sri sir, what took them 75 years to realize this? Were they in hibernation? Were they in slumber for 75 years? Why after 75 years you realize this? And the latest, salt on the injury was when we did a G20 summit in Itanagar, which China decided not to come. Now, this resilient India, this vibrant India, which is doing what it has to do at a military level, at economic level, at a geopolitical level, at a development, power, culture, tourism, roads, building infrastructure, the way we are revamping our roads, the way we build roads to the Pegong. And the amount of military deployment India has done with the state of art, with the state of technology. And let me tell you one important point, sir, here. If you look at the S-400, what we have got is S-450, and what China has is typically S-250, because the 400-kilometer interception missile was not given by China to them, and our is
by
missile.
Russia to them.
By Russia to them. And our missile, which is given, some people told me it has a range of more than 400 kilometers, the last one, maybe up to 600 kilometers. And the proximity fuse from 1 kilometer, the range is now more than 2 kilometers. So it becomes more lethal. The second battery has also come, third battery is also coming, and we're getting the Rafales. And the biggest pain in the wrong side, I don't want to use the word, of the China is the BrahMos missile, sir. I have been reading some Chinese think tanks, and they have been saying, you have to very well know before engaging militarily with India, what is the number of BrahMos missiles India has. According to some estimates, I have no idea, and I could not have as a civilian, they might be up to 80,000. And if they are even one half of that, Mr. China, it is advised you cannot win a war with India. Do not engage with India, because there's nothing that China has to stop a BrahMos. So when China is being cornered and rattled, Sri sir, what they are doing, out of frustration and all, they are doing this. They are provoking us. They want us to reciprocate in the same way they want us to do. So they want to start a dispute where it doesn't exist. For example, I come to your house and I put my nameplate, Sumit Peer. The house doesn't belong to me. Or I put your nameplate outside my house. It doesn't belong to you. Right? I can say Los Angeles. I can say, for example, New York is Sri Harinagar. It will not become Sri Harinagar. You can say, Mathura is Madrid. Mathura will not become Madrid. So, but if we get into this, we will create a dispute where none exists. So if they come up with the names, we rebuke them. But if we have to hit China, hit them economically, hit them militarily, hit them where it hurts them most. And with their real estate sector, which is Kongtop, which controls more than 30% of the GDP, their bullet trains are in problem, the China Airlines is in problem, their pharma industry is in problem, this BRI and OBR is in problem, and they might even default at that 1.3 trillion loan. And instantly, 2 days back, I was reading in Nikkei that what I have been always saying, that the China's cumulative debt is 320% of the GDP, or 3.2 times of the GDP. Now we are talking of the highest debt in the world, $53 trillion, with a debt servicing cost of around $1 trillion. This is the plight of economy of China, and China getting cornered from everywhere and these hundreds and thousands of companies which are leaving China, and most of them are ending up in India. India getting closer to the United States of America. India is being closer to Russia. So this balance which India is able to do, and India is closer to the Middle East, India is close to the Muslim world, India is close to the Caribbeans, and India is even close to South America now. And Africa, we have much bigger foothold. And if you look at our investments in Africa, it's only $2 billion less than China today. So we dominating this push of India emerging is rattling China. So what does China do for semantics, optics, and for public consumption? They want to, I'm renaming this, I'm doing this. Why didn't they come to Itanagar? When we invited them for a G20 summit, they should have come to Itanagar. They should have said they want to say something. And the most important point, sir, what took great Chinese 75 years to wake up from hyper-slumber? Even opium doesn't work for 75 years. What are they on? I need to understand that.
Good points, all of them. Sumitji, walk us through what happened in December last year when the Chinese who were thinking of grabbing land space got a very unpleasant surprise from India. There was some very closely coordinated thing that took place. They got some intelligence from America that helped India make some plans. Walk us through that one episode, because I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, India took about 50 to 60 prisoners, and they were going to slaughter them, practically slaughter them. The Chinese commander had to take a white flag and say, please spare my men. And somehow India let go of them. I don't know why, if that was the only way, if that is the engagement of war principle, Geneva Convention or what. Just walk us through a little bit about that episode.
Sure. Sir, this incident happened in Tawang. What happened that these people, they are in 15, 16 rounds of flag meetings which were happened. Out of 5 friction points, 3 are resolved, 2 are still lying. Because China wants to play this double game. On the one side, we have Wang Yi coming here in a commercial plane, and he wants to do business with India. He wants to increase business with India because unfortunately he gets $70 billion at trade surplus from us. And I think from United States it's $600 billion. Maybe the numbers have changed slightly. Now, for them, it's a win-win proportion because we're giving them money. Now the new foreign minister, what is his name? Liu Zhang. Liu Zhang says that the Quad will fail. Indo-Pacific is a flawed concept. He has conceptually dismissed Indo-Pacific as a flawed concept. And when the G20 summit, when the Quad meeting happened in Japan, after some time, they flew jets over Japan. So this China doing semantics and optics, and they simulated a wooden aircraft carrier as an American aircraft carrier and made a video and said, look how we will destroy a wooden carrier. But they forget that wooden carriers don't retaliate, American carriers retaliate. And they can burn down the China, they forget that. But for these peasants of China and the workers of China who only know Mandarin, who don't understand English, and everything is controlled, when it comes to global times to the local media, she said they get these goosebumps. Oh, mighty China, how strong we are. Look how we dismantled the aircraft carrier of America. Americans are scared of us. The whole world is scared of us. It is the mighty China. It is the Han dynasty. It is the Chinese who are going to rule the world because we are Han Chinese. But they forget the who line. In the who line, if you look at the hand, this is the who line. This is where the mainland China is. Other territories, 97% of the development is here. But all the water comes from here. All the food comes from here. And these territories have already started kind of revolting against them. But to keep these 97% Chinese enslaved with the CCP doctrine, they keep on coming with this optics and semantics. For example, if you look at the Politburo meeting, Sri sir, you would have noted one thing. There were around 200 people stick. Three things you see. No telephone, no computer, no mic. None of them had a mic. None of them had a telephone. None of them had a computer. So what were they, dummies like this? They could have even made put 200 mannequins there. They would have looked smarter. So people come in a so-called Politburo meeting. Imagine this vision, and they're like this: no computer, no mic, no telephone. What are you supposed to do? Only for photo optics and semantics. Now the point I'm trying to draw home is, if Chinese Politburo is a photo ops and semantics and optics, then this all things are photo ops, semantics and optics. But what do they want? They desperately are looking for a win against Prime Minister Modi. They somehow want to capture few posts. They somehow want to capture some territory. So, because then our opposition here will use that as a rallying point and say, look, Modi, under Modi, India has lost land. China has been able to capture our land. That is why you should throw out Modi. That is what is happening. There have been Congress leaders who have gone to Pakistan and told them, why don't you help us to throw Modi? You know what the names I'm talking about. This is all in the open media.
Unfortunately, the same last name as mine.
Yeah. Bang on, sir.
मुझे कोई रिश्ता नहीं है उससे.
That is a good one. So, I know the last name is same, so I was hesitant to take the name.
नहीं, जो है सो है भाई.
So she said, now if this is what is happening around the world, now these people, they came around 2,000 of them. There was some intel. We had about 20 men, and some men were ready. They came with their arms clubs. They had those nails in this, because there's an agreement. Nobody will use guns or fire bullets. They came with it. They thought they will come and take 2 or 3 of our posts by surprise. And if you look at the geography, the posts are like this. If you take these 2 posts, you get the whole V. You get this whole big area. If the posts are like here, you will only get this area. But here, they wanted to get these posts, and this is at the tri-junction. And even in the Doklam, on the other side of the Doklam, they are trying to have these new, these villages which they are trying to inhabit to put pressure on us. The villages are basically the camps of PLA. They are not villages. They are just for the namesake villages. They tried to came. They thought we'll take Indians by surprise. They came with clubs. They came with padding. They came with medicines. They came with supplies. But our brothers who had intent, and there's a difference, sir. My brother, my Indian army Jawan, my brother, he fights for Mother India. He is not a slave of any party of India. While as a army man of PLA fights for Communist Party of China, he fights for Xi Jinping. He does not fight for Mother China. He does not fight for the flag of China. His allegiance is to his boss, who is the General Secretary of the PLA and the head of the Central Military Commission. While as my brothers fought for our land, they could not imagine the valor of Indian army. When they came, we encircled them. We got 62 of them, but there's no formal confirmation. That is what we know informally. 62 of them captured. We beat them black and blue. Reinforced came. We encircled them. We really thrashed them. I don't know how many people had broken bones. We had some minor injuries. 4 or 5 men were injured. But we gave them a taste of the salt of Indian valor. even 20 or 100 odd Indian men could handle up to 2,000 of you. Now, tell me, Sri sir, how can 2,000 men go and attack a post? Who allowed 2,000 men to go? Where did the clubs come from? Who allowed that migration? Who allowed them to come near? So without the consent of PLA, because what is Xi's problem? She is rattled. She wants a win, desperate win against India at any cost. And I'm very sure there are people here also within India who want that win, because this win will be used in the elections to bring down Modi. But by the grace of God, by the grace of Mahadev, we are friends with Americans, we are friends with most of the people of the world, and being the leaders of the global south, which is 80% of the world population, 80% of the countries. So our intel and our well-wishers are everywhere. Our vaccine diplomacy, our 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝘀, our giving of our UPI, giving of our intelligence softwares, giving of our satellite to our countries, and helping everybody in need. Even Turkey talks against us, but there was an earthquake. We were the second one to land there, and we were the second biggest contingent to land there. We helped Turkey as well. So that goodwill, Sri sir, has prevailed, and that has helped us. So these Chinese were really rattled, and you are right, they had to come up with a white flag. Sir, kindly save us, kindly let us go. So that was big, humiliating surrender. I would call it a surrender by PLA. Galwan, they lost 5 times the man what we lost. They were rattled. Here, they came all prepared. So their intentions were to capture those few posts. But again, the valor of Indian Army and our preparedness and our defense satellites and all have really kind of, taken them a beating. I'll give you one example. There was one drone called Swaran drone. Now, in Galwan, what did we realize? When the Chinese came, sir, they had these drones which were coming up and which were populating the sky and telling them about movement, where the people and all, and we were not prepared, honestly. But this Swaran drone, why do I want to talk about this? The platform was developed by DRDO in just 5 months, 4 months. Then the startups of India came in. From prototype, from a concept to being given to army, it only took 5 months. 5 months, 5 to 6 months, they were with army. Now it is an 8-kilo drone. It is a tubular drone. You can launch as many of them. It can be into the air, I think, for 1 hour 30 minutes, and the highest speed is 72 kilometers per hour, and can carry around 3.5 kilos of payload. It can be also used as an attack drone, surveillance drone, whichever way you want. So low cost, no business. So this speed, when in India can build a concept within 5 months. Now, if you look at the trucks which Tata built, which are now in Galwan and all the LAC, those all-terrain vehicles. There was a time we were importing trucks from Tatra. And though Tata is the biggest tech automobile manufacturer in the world, but we were importing trucks from Tatra, right? We could not do that. You know how. Now, these high-speed boats in Pegongso, which are also bulletproof and all. This were done us. Now, from drones to boats to and the kind of arsenal we have developed, the arsenal we have purchased, and we have purchased a lot of Israeli defense equipment, which some is in the public domain, some is not. A lot has come from United States of America. So now this resilience of India, and the most important thing was, at the peak of the crisis, Vladimir Putin was here. He came here to 6 hours. He signed everything, 33 new areas of cooperation, and 10 years support and AMC for all the Russian equipment what we have. Now that was a quick one which we pulled. And when Rajnath Singh ji went to Russia, he got all the support and cooperation. Now with all these things which China could never imagine the India would do, because China's calculations are based on India of Manmohan Singh. So where you could literally walk through, where you could have a FTA, where Rahul Gandhi can tear an audience and get away with it and all that. Now he never imagined, budgeted the India of Modi. He could not imagine that Indians could do that. Indians could do this under Modi, and Indians could balance so many risks. And I remember one thing, Sri sir, I remember when at the time of Galwan, Modi ji went to Ladakh. None of the CCP leaders came to Ladakh, came to that side of the border. Nobody came there. And on the land of Ladakh, he said, I am calling that the days of expansionism are over. This expansionist forces cannot continue. And he said one important thing. He said, we are disciples of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. On one hand, he carries the flute, which is the epitome of peace and harmony. But on the other hand, he carries Sudarshan Chakra, which is the most deadliest weapon. That was the India's foreign policy message. You be fair with us, you be friends with us. We are the people of flute. We are the Vanshaj of Shri Krishna. But don't forget, we also have the most deadliest weapons against you. And Modi is not Sri Krishna, because he will not want you to be Shishupal. He will not wait for 101 mistakes to happen. That you have to take for consideration. Now, this resilience of India, sir, this upcoming of India, this ability of India to manage two superpowers, that is Russia and United States of America, not get scared, get the S-400, get the American arsenal, get Chinooks, Apaches, Rafales, get everything in place, and get over the bureaucratic hurdles of building roads, getting everything done, having the money to pay, maintaining the foreign exchange reserves, becoming the fifth largest economy, aircraft carriers, LCA, LCH, and 5G rollout, 6G patents, filing the highest number of patents in the world. This China does not know what to cover, and China knows there's a window of opportunity before 24 elections. In my personal opinion, sir, I hope and pray I'm wrong, China will try something in between before 24. That win will be used by the opposition of India to bring down Modi at any cost, because they know electorally they cannot defeat Prime Minister Modi. They know that. So how to bring down Modi is by something like this. China might even use Pakistan to flare up, LOC. That is a possibility. And we might be even looking for a two-way kind of a confrontation. Let's not forget there were 42 Chinese jets in Askadu. What were they doing in Askadu? There's no reason for them to be in Askadu. And with these things happen, because they know when it from 24 to 29, after 29, that opportunity of China to do anything vis-a-vis India or to stop India will be gone forever. So these 10 months, precisely speaking, 9-10 months to election are crucial. A lot of things can happen. They will try a lot of things in the book. India is studying cautiously. India is not creating disputes. India is responding diplomatically in a manner it should, but militarily, economically, culturally, and at a diplomatic level, the ante is much higher. And what you rightly said, the Americans were very prompt to bank us. Russians did not say. And this so-called name calling of China, or name giving of China, this Zabardasti ka namkaran, what we call in Hindi, after 75 years, is what the world is laughing at, because these people are naming everything to anything in the world. So when you're good at nothing, when you're impotent and incompetent, so what do you end up doing? You I'll go to United States and put a nameplate outside the White House and say, from tomorrow it's my house. So the White House will be White House, it will never become my house. That is how it is. So this talks about the sheer frustration and how incompetent China has become. But sir, the only problem with China is she is desperate. It's one man who can decide a lot of things. This setup is entirely different from the entire world. And if this man goes crazy, he can go to any limits just to save his face. And we know that one of the Chinese presidents, I forget the name, who I think
Jiang Zemin.
Yeah, Jiang Zemin. He was all hale and hearty in the Politburo, and suddenly we came to know he has multi-organ failure, he has cancer, he has terminal diseases, and she has been declared with cerebral aneurysm. I think, if I'm getting the name correct.
Aneurysm.
Yeah. Where the vessels of the head are diluted, and with a high blood pressure or anything, the person can die anything. So in China, all possibilities are possible. Even the king can go, or the king can become dangerous, or the disease might kick in. So a disease is a disease which can kick in any time, right? Human body, old man, overweight, medically things can happen. And you already told there's a disease, when suddenly you'll come up, 10, 12 days, he will again disappear. Then we'll say, oh, due to this, there was a disease. And suddenly, like with the president, suddenly we'll know that some vein somewhere in the head has ruptured, and unfortunately, while the person was sleeping, he passed away peacefully, and then we'll have a state funeral, and the new leader will be enacted. So anyway, it can happen. I'm predicting it can happen anyway. It is not only, we are vulnerable, they can, again, the king is vulnerable. That is the point I'm trying to make.
A lot of stuff that got shared. Thank you so much, Sumitji. I just want to add 2 cents to what you said. The new foreign minister, now Wang Yi is no longer the foreign minister. New foreign minister used to be ambassador of China to United States. Very colorful character. So very, very aggressive too. So it's going to be interesting if they put him in his, in case Xi gets ousted. Lecky Kang, who's no longer the premier, was a much more stable hand, much more steadying hand. Unfortunately, that group has lost out in this power struggle. So we have to wait and see what they are going to do. One last question before we take some questions from our audience. See, walk us through what happened after Balakot. See, India goes and takes out, these bombs. That what they did was they sucked up the oxygen from inside the building. So people died fighting for breath. But the building itself stayed intact. Now, Pakistan, after that, they took all the foreign corpses and say that nothing happened here. Look, these guys are just making claims. Nothing happened. That is one side. They were also hiding that 200 plus bodies had to be taken to hospitals close by. They were actually having emergency messages. Any doctor, please come, because looks like people died slowly. It didn't like something really bad happened. Then Pakistan retaliates. Now, this is where I want you to chime in. See, people say that it was an F-16 they used to retaliate, which is what Abhinandan went up and shot it down, and he also got shot down. Or was it a JF-17, which is a ripoff of China of F-16?
Sir, it's a very interesting question. So once we did what we did, the biggest proof of the pudding is there was this character called Maulana Masood Azhar.
Yes.
After Balakot, Sri sir, you would have not seen his one live video. I always ask on the Pakistan media, where did he disappear? Did the ground swallow him, or did the sky eat him up? What happened? Or did the fire burn him up and his ashes and rash and his ashes were within the Balakot? So possibly we have to do a DNA analysis of the land of Balakot to find his DNA if it is there. So first they said he is critical, he is in kidney transplant, his kidneys are not working. But so many years have passed, but not one single video. His brothers, his family got killed. So that means our strike was effective. We dismantled the person whom we wanted to dismantle because he's not seen. And I have challenged them a lot of times. I told them in Hindi, "Arey Baba, dikhao na. If you have him somewhere, why don't you show it to us where the hell he is? Why is he such a price catch? Show it up. Say, because if you show it up, you say, oh, how ineffective Indians have been." And I was on one show. There was one brigadier. He said, "Oh, there were only a few trees and few crows which died in Balakot. Nothing happened." I said, "Brigadier Saab, and now these crows must be of a very special breed because we have to send mirages to kill crows. Either we are very rich, we are going crow hunting deep into Pakistan, spending a few $1 million, sending mirages and killing crows. Wow, man. You know, that is called the rich of India. See how rich we are." But I told him, "You are calling your state assets and jihadis as crows. This is your nomenclature. From now, I'll call them crows because I got the word from you." So he was more irritated. But anyway, that is it. Now, what happened is this F-16, if you remember that day, the one of the pilots who got killed, which Pakistan admitted, was the son of an ex-air chief marshal. He was given state funeral. JF-17 never felt. Which airplane failed? Where did the AIM missile come from? Where did the wreck come from? And so now, if you talk of JF-17, I want to give 2-3. We can have a separate session, but 2-3 quick things about under. JF-17 is Sir Junk Fighter under 18. Junk Fighter, my number, under 18. I'm an amateur. First of all, 60% of the fleet is grounded, sir. 60%. You will tell me why. The fuselage has developed cracks. The only two countries which have JF-17 is Myanmar and Nigeria. Even there, the fleets are grounded. You can check, it's on the internet. Fuselage has cracks. Where you join the wingspan, there you have again cracks. Point number 3, the anchorage, the radar anchorage is so heavy it breaks down, right? Ejection mechanism, when you have to eject, it does not work. The missiles which have to be fitted are only from China. No other missile can be fitted into it. A radar has a range of 50 kilometers, while as our LCA has a range of 100 kilometers. That means before a JF-70 can see a Tejas will blow it off and go. If you look at the landing area, if you look at the torque, if you look at the engine serviceability is much higher. I think we have the same engine which F-22 Raptor uses in Tejas. Which is the engine? Now the main important thing is what is the engine in JF-17? The engine is an old Russian engine. Now recently, China said this engine is useless and we will make our own engine. Russia retaliated by saying we will not give you this engine, neither the spares. And the most important thing, sir, JF-17 has no mid-air refueling. Now, what is the last nail in the coffin? When you fly it for 400 hours, it needs an engine overhaul. Tejas is 4,000 hours. So most of them have almost flown 400 hours or around 400 hours. So the availability of the fleet of JF-17 is 10, 20, 25%. And even when you go up in the air, it's literally a flying coffin because you don't know what will break off and where. Because this junk, which Chinese sold up, it was, I think, MiG-35, the old MiG-35, on the prototype of which this whole junk was built, which Russians had discarded and Chinese copied that and built it. So it is not even copy of 21. It is a much worse copy of that. 21s were because they lived their life and they served much more than the life. Here the fleet is new, but it is down. The Myanmar it is grounded. Nigeria it is grounded, and Pakistan it is grounded. There is no way a JF-17 could bring down 21. It was the F-16. And in fact, after that, if you remember, Lockheed Martin offered India that I want to give you F-16. They said we'll move the whole assembly from, I think, Texas to India. But after this incident, the Indians said, no. After this incident, we don't want F-16. And I was instantly looking at the US military. I think US military only has 10% of the F-16s left. Most of them are Super Hornets. Those, what you call them, the superior version is, I can't remember.
F-35?
No, there's a superior version of F-16. I can't remember the name, I'm sorry. So most of them are them. There are no older versions. But if you look at the Pakistan F-16s, they are 83, 85 models, and the end of the life, or the lifespan of the F-16 is already 40 years. So most of them have either reached that stage or going to reach that stage. So even for the sake of God, I don't know what is the availability of F-16 of Pakistan. Maybe 20, 30%. GF-17, 15, 20%. And with every day, both of them are dying fleets. There will be a time Pakistan will have no aircraft to fly. And we are waiting for that time so that we can take Lahore very easily without a march of us. So we are waiting for that time. And even the so-called Lockheed Martin upgrade, which the Americans promised. Now Pakistan's were there, we are getting $400 million of upgrade. I said, did Americans tell you when will it start? Did they tell you when will it end? Did they tell you what will be upgraded? And did they tell you what will be the availability of the service? Did they tell you after the end of the life? Did they tell you what is the availability of the fleet which will increase? And will the end of life increase by 10 years, 5 years, or 6 months? So answer me these questions. And your radar and your flight gear will be only upgraded. You will not get new arms. You will not get new ammunition. You will not get any technical upgrades. So only critical space and all will be given. So your flight availability might increase. And that too, Lockheed Martin, let's say for example, I'm upgrading this. I might sell this for, I say this is, let's say $100. But in an upgrade, I'll tell you the same thing is $1,000 because you're not buying from me. It's upgrade. The US DOD will pay Lockheed Martin and Lockheed Martin will do it for you. So you're not getting $400 million. And by the time the upgrades will happen, the equipment may be technically end of life. 40 years might have gone by. So what are you celebrating upon, you buffoons? You should learn to understand a bit of science and technology. But in madrasas, nobody teaches science and technology. That's their problem, sir. What to teach them?
Very eloquently put. Thank you so much, Sumit ji. We'll keep, we can't have a story about China without having some sub-stories about Pakistan. But I think that was a well-explained story. I think you've convinced the audience, at least you've convinced me, that F-16 was what was brought down. Thank you so much. Let's take some questions. Sumit ji, one small request. Try to answer in 1 minute or less, because then we can add about 15 questions. We have about 13 minutes, 13 questions. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. First question coming up. Raghunandan wants to know, sir, we should not export iron ore and raw material. We should make finished products and reduce imports from China. Your views on it?
Sir, already that is work in progress. Local for vocal, make in India. Every district will have one export unit wherein Prime Minister Modi is very clear. We are not exporting the raw material, but we are doing the maximum possible value addition and exporting the value added product. That is work in progress, and it is being done, sir, as we talk. And for all 752 districts or 30 districts we have identified the product, made it local, and even when the last IBM was inaugurated in somewhere in South Kozhikode or somewhere, I don't remember the place, Madurai, I believe, the Prime Minister Modi said that I've given you the building, I put the money, but now it is for you to develop this area and get this area on the world map. This is a strategy which we are already working on, sir.
Next question, please. Venture Dent. Sir, recently a Chinese spy ship made a visit to some port in Bangladesh, and it was reported that they had developed a technology that can switch off the GPS of an aircraft. Your comments?
Sir, to best of my knowledge, I don't think they have that technology. China is 90% is propaganda, 10% is reality. The people who could not make a reliable car, the people who could not make a reliable microwave oven, the people who could not make a reliable fridge or a bike. So this is very high-tech technology, and today most of the Indian, our assets are using our own GPRS systems. We are not depending on the foreign GPRS systems anymore. So it won't be so easy. And if China does something like this, we also have an ASAT missile which can bring down a satellite. So that is why when the ASAT missile was developed, Prime Minister Modi came on a public broadcast and announced it, because we have the retaliation in place if at all push comes to shove.
Next question, please. Rahul Rathod wants to know, because of Xi, Indo-China are becoming enemies, but before him, up to 2013, LAC mostly remained peaceful. If China didn't show aggression, Indo-China relations would have improved. Your thoughts?
Sir, in China, it is about, I have been to China more than 30 times, and Hong Kong around 50 times, and for 10 years in a row. I will tell you, in Chinese culture, it's the face of the top man. Top man decides everything. If you look at Hu Jintao and if you look at Xi, it's a altogether different people you are dealing with. But the problem is that, you see, China got money through capitalism. By politics, they are communists. Now this cocktail, when you have one tire going here, one tire going here, how long can you balance the steering? There will be a time when your wheels are going in opposite directions. So to retain power, they will be communists, but to reap the fruits, they will be capitalists. Now Xi comes with this mentality wherein these Han Chinese are destined to rule the whole world. They are destined to be the rulers of the world, and by the virtue of their birth, they should rule the whole world. And let's not forget, sir, it was the Emperor Tang who dismantled the Chinese Navy long back. He said, because if you will have the Navy, you will go and bloody attack the whole world. So if you don't have the Navy, when somebody will come to attack you, then you have to defend. So they, by design, this mentality of Han Chinese are destined to rule the whole world. That is where the problem is.
Thank you, sir. Next question, please. Learner wants to know, sir, what is the motive behind Saudi-Iran friendship? Is it gas pipeline only?
Saudi and Iranians have been rivals for now hundreds of years. Now what China is doing, because we are into I2U2 and India was becoming a very important force in Middle East, because India replaced Britain and France, because all other players are constant. Now this is the only alliance I2 where you have Christians, you have Muslims, you have Hindus, and you have Jews. It's a one alliance of its kind. So to counter India's increasing influence in Middle East, that was one reason. Second reason is, it will take slightly more than a minute, sir. She said, you remember China and Iran had done a $500 billion deal of petroleum products for 10 or 20 years. But that deal was never honored by China. Here, Saudis were coming close to India. Saudis are coming to India to do FTA, where a rupee trading will happen through GCC countries. China knows that. Saudis are worried they are losing the Indian oil and gas market share to Russia, which is irreversible. So now China went to Russia to buy cheap oil. So now what did he do? So to balance between these Saudis and Iranians, they try to make up this patchy alliance. But the differences at ideological level and economic level are so much. You cannot have fire and water together. You can have them together. In Amritsar, we have this ice cream pakoda. But the ice cream pakoda only happens in Amritsar and it doesn't last. That is how the answer would be, sir.
Superb. Next question from Rahul Rathod again. Do you think India lacks narrative building capacity because Western propaganda rates India as a weak in front of China? This we also experienced after Balakot. We lost the narrative battle.
Sir, the answer here is that what is India doing under Prime Minister Modi is building what we have to build: roads, infrastructure, forex, banking, UPI, de-dollarization, rupee trading. We are working on strengthening us. There's a line in Hindi, if you want to, or we all know when we were kids were taught, there are two lines here. I want to lower this line by not, and I can't erase it. I have to draw a bigger line. We are drawing a bigger line. And of course, when you're drawing a bigger line, and let me tell you, sir, our median age is 28 years. It is 12 years lesser than China's. And our demographic dividends are going to last for next 70 years. So imagine, and by 2035, I'm talking of $35.8 trillion economy, 22 years, $22 trillion of GDP, and my demographic dividend will last for 70 years. So when this is your potential and when this is your trajectory, a lot of people would like to contain you, and they have a right to contain you. I'm not defending that. That is why even what I was explaining earlier with the renaming and all, we are doing what we have to do in the ground rather than doing a tit for tat, because that will aggravate the issue. But squeezing China more and more is that will bring down the China, not by naming their stees by our stees or whatever. So our strategy is strengthen ourselves. There is a time, sir, the world will recognize your power. The world has recognized our power. Today, no major decisions in the world are done without the consent of India. That time is already there, as in you and me talk.
Thank you so much, Sumiji. I just want to mention one small thing that you said about how China can actually target a virus on a specific type of a DNA profile. This was mentioned many months ago by Elmer Yuhan, and many of you laughed at it. See, see, if you are going to now, Biden also has signed off on opening the entire kimono as far as Wuhan and the virus are concerned. You'll start seeing more revelations coming from the United States, and this will give you an idea of how much capability this lab had developed, that it can actually engineer directing at a particular DNA sequence. So this is very, very important. I'm glad you brought that up because it validates what Elmer had said about a year and a half ago on PGurus channel. Thank you so much, sir. Next question, please. Kishore TVK, Yuhan named after Yoga Uddana. Call as part of India as their inspired yoga guru from Bharat. Name history and name them call them out. Yuhan. Yuhan is Wuhan? I don't know. Go ahead.
Well, honestly, Kishorji, I don't have any information on this, but what is more important is that, you see, if you look at some of the Chinese think tanks today, they are already talking of the breakup of China by 2029 or 2030. So we are talking of 6 to 9 years down the line, where we're not talking of a lot of time. So the more Chinese economy will come under pressure, it's the world's most leveraged economy, most indebted economy. And if you look at our cumulative debt, $2.28 trillion, Forex debt, $600 billion. China's cumulative debt, $53 trillion, which is approximately 55% of the global GDP. That answers everything. Now, the point here is that there are various ways where we can control them. And let me remind you one last thing. Now, forget CCP. You see, our problem is not with the people of China. I mean, I maintain that across the platforms. Our problem is with the CCP and Xi Jinping because of the mentality here, because he wants to enter your and my bedroom, steal my data, dominate my life, debt trap me and all other things. So that is what is happening. Now, if you look at that, there is a thing happening in China, big revolution, where they are calling Prime Minister Modi lexicon, I believe. Lexicon or the immortal. They say in Chinese, as per the Chinese mythology also, there's a person who comes once in 1,000 years who changes the humanity as such. And they are saying, sir, the people of China are saying that Modi is the person. The girls of Pakistan are saying we want to marry Sanatani Hindus. That is where women get dignity. So who are these? These are our hostile and enemy countries. And if I combine them together, India, China, and Pakistan, they might look 3 names. But sir, if I combine together 45% of the world's population, if you get endorsement from the enemy, from the common man on your enemy's soil, what more do you want? That is how we are beating them black and blue, sir.
Next question, please. SV wants to know, why is China shy of Pakistan at this crucial time and Taliban's relationship with Pakistan is getting into trouble? Will it benefit India?
China is shy of Pakistan because China has no great interest in Pakistan. CPEC is washed out. Now, they don't have a lot of money. Their economy is not doing good. Exports are falling. So the only interest is land. Land, ladies, and legitimacy. Legitimacy, Pakistan has literally given them. Ladies, you know, 1 million of them are married. Pakistani girls are married to Chinese grooms. And instantly after the floods, they kept the brides there. And the bridegrooms ran away. So, and I don't know what the kids will be called. Pacchinos. Not cappuccino, Pacchino. So I will get my pronunciation. So with this happening, land, ladies, and legitimacy, Pakistan has surrendered all the 3. With these things happening, what is going to happen? So China doesn't have a lot of interest. China is a very self-centered country, which wherein they say we are atheists, we have no God, but they have one God. You know what is the name of their God? Benjamin Franklin, the person who is on your US dollar. He is their only God. They only worship one God. Benjamin Franklin, that's the reality of China. If they have nothing to get from Pakistan, if they have nothing to squeeze from Pakistan, they don't know Pakistan. Which Pakistan? Who Pakistan? What Pakistanis can do for us? But if they don't want modern day slaves, if they want those colonies, food colonies, then they will love Pakistan.
Thank you so much, Sumit ji. Viewers, thanks for your resounding support. You have other choices to watch, but you chose to watch us. We are really indebted to you for that. And keep this flag going. We want to hit 1 million subscribers by the time the elections are closed. In about a year's time, we want to be at 1 million. And you can help us. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Sumit ji is an excellent resource. You can see that he has information on his fingertip because he is like much sought after on many channels. So you pick up here, there, you get a lot of information. And we are doing our best to give you the most up-to-date, accurate information. So please help us. Please follow Sumit ji. His Twitter handle is Sumit P191. Mine is 𝙒𝙖𝙀1. And help us grow this channel, because all we ask of you is just subscription. No money. It would be nice if you donate, but we are just asking you to help us by subscribing. Thank you so much, Sumit ji. We'll be back again next Thursday with Sumit ji to talk about what is happening around the world. Thank you once again, sir. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind and sadhuvat to all. Pranam.